And let me share my screen and we'll get started. All right, everyone. So Salam, welcome to this presentation. Mr. Qureshi, I just want to confirm that everyone can hear me.
So I can definitely hear you.
Okay, great. So Mr. Qureshi is also joining us today for the presentation. Just a couple of points here. Mr. Qureshi will be answering questions that may come up during the presentation in the Q&As. So our goal is to have the Q&A at the end of the session, but of course, as I go along, I'm sure there will be questions that pop up. I know it's a little tricky with the webinar mode. We're usually doing this presentation every year in the gym. It's a little more interactive that way, but we're working with what we have and we're gonna do the best here. So if there are questions that pop up during the presentation, just send them in the Q&A box and we'll try to answer those questions for you as the presentation goes. All right, so let's get started with our agenda. So what are we going to be talking about in this presentation? The few things that will be mentioned or discussed in the presentation will be number one, of course, an overview of the university application process, just sort of general overview. I'll also be talking about some updates and changes that are new this year with the COVID-19 virtual learning and the changes that have come with that. So we'll go over that. I'll also go over some timelines and deadlines for your university applications. We'll go into the more specific application steps when you get on the OUAC website, how to maneuver your way around the website itself and some things to keep in mind. And then also some other myths and important things to keep in mind, important points to consider as well as you start your application process for universities, inshallah. All right, so I'm going to start with some changes that are new this year. Number one, I know this was a question that a lot of you were thinking about in terms of your community service hours. So last year, grade 12s, this requirement was waived for them. So the 40 hours, they didn't have to worry about it because of the closure. It made it harder for students to find places to volunteer. So that 40-hour requirement was completely waived. This year for grade 12 students, they have made some additional changes, but instead of completely waiving the requirement, they have reduced the number of hours that you need in order to graduate. So you need 20 hours to graduate to get your OSSD, and it is due by the end of the school year as usual. Okay, so for those of you who are currently at zero, because I know there are a few of you who have zero in terms of your hours for community service, I'm really hoping that a lot of you have those hours, but you just have not submitted them to us. So hopefully that's the case. If you are actually at zero, like you have not volunteered at all, then you need to have at least 20, all right, before June or by May. That's when we want you guys to submit the hours to us, okay? So please make sure that you have 20 hours of community service to graduate. The community hour requirement has not been completely waived for you guys, all right? So you need 20 hours to graduate. How you achieve or complete those 20 hours, you do have some options. There are a lot of virtual volunteering options for you, but I don't want to spend too much time talking about that specific thing. If you have questions about how you can complete those 20 hours, you can send us an email. You can send me an email and we'll talk more about it. But please make sure that you do have 20 hours and you're working towards getting those 20 hours this year. Okay, we're going to be collecting those hours. The deadline is May, so you still have some time to make sure that you have those 20 hours accounted for. All right. The next update is that unlike previous years, this year semester one midterm marks will be sent to OUAC. Usually, previously, OUAC only collects your final marks from semester one, but this year they will be collecting semester one midterm marks. So just a heads up about that, and that will happen in November. And the next thing that's new is that they will also ask you to submit your semester two courses, so your projected semester two courses. and they will also be sent to OUAC. So this again is different because this was not the case previously. So in order to do this, I will be sending out course selections to you today, and you will have until October 30th to submit your course selections, okay, for semester 2. So semester 2 course selections will be handed out today. I will be sending that form out today, and you will have until October 30th to submit your course selection. So that's 2.5 weeks almost. All right. Some things to keep in mind regarding your courses. Remember, these courses, we are going to be uploading them on OUAC, or they will be uploaded on OUAC. So please choose carefully. If you make changes, those changes will be made by us. So we would have to go into your university record, your OUAC record, and make those changes ourselves if you decide to change your mind later on. But for now, we need you to select your semester 2 courses so that they can be sent to OUAC. And again, the form will be given out to you today after the presentation, and you have until October 30th to choose your courses. Another key reminder here is that I want you guys to be really paying attention to the number of credits you have. There are a few of you that have 23 credits up until your grade 11 courses or your grade 11 year. Okay, so if you have 23 credits, that means you need 7 credits to graduate to meet the 30 credit requirement to graduate. So please, this is something that you really need to stay on top of. Just make sure that you know how many credits you need to graduate, how many credits you have now. And so make your semester 2 courses or select your semester 2 courses based on that. Okay, so for instance, if you have 23 credits and you need, because there are a few of you who are at 23 credits from what we know, what we have in our records, if you have 23 credits, then that means you need 7 courses in grade 12 to graduate. So if you've selected 3 courses semester 1, then that obviously means semester 2, you will need to have 4 courses. Okay, so please just make sure that you are staying on track and keeping your credits and how many you have. You're just kind of staying on top of that. All right, if you have questions about that, please send me an email. And if you're wondering how many credits you have until this point, please send me an email and I will share that information with you so you know exactly what's going on. Okay, so this is really important. Please make sure that you're choosing your courses carefully and you have your program prerequisites in mind as well. So whichever program you are considering applying to, make your choices accordingly because again, these projected courses will be sent to OUAC. All right, moving on. So let's start with the first step of your OUAC applications. The first thing you need is your access code. Or your PIN number. Usually previously we've had a physical copy that we would give out to you guys during these presentations that we would have in the gym, right? So we would have this big envelope with this letter and we would give each student their envelope with the letter with the PIN number. This year, they will be mailed to you instead. So you're not actually receiving a copy from us, like a physical copy or hard copy. You will be mailed that copy to your home address. From the updates that I received last week, they have been mailed out last week. Okay, so you should be getting them in the next couple of weeks, inshallah. If you do not get this letter, you need to let me know ASAP. All right, in the next few weeks, if you don't receive the letter, you need to let me know ASAP. But let me just go over what this letter actually is, because I don't think I went over that yet. So this letter actually contains your temporary PIN number, your school number, and your student number. And these numbers you will need to access your university, your OUAC 101 application. You cannot access your application if you do not have these numbers, which is why it's really important that if you do not receive that number, that you let me know as soon as possible. Okay, they should be in your mail. All right, check your mail. They should have been mailed to your home address or whatever address we have in our system. Your PIN is confidential. Please do not share it with anyone else. This is also very important because this is how you're going to access your programs and how OUAC recognizes you as an applicant. The other important note is that if you do end up misplacing your access code or your PIN letter, don't worry, don't stress, we have them. So if you need a copy, please let me know and I will have that letter for you, okay? So don't panic if you end up losing that letter and you haven't started your application yet. So right now, in terms of what you should be doing as you wait for your PIN number and the letter from OUAC, you should be visiting the Ontario University's info.ca website. And you should be looking up programs, comparing programs, finding prerequisites, requirements that you may need to apply for those programs. You should also read the 101 application guide, which is also available on the OUAC website. And there you'll receive more up-to-date program information because remember, program requirements and prerequisites change all the time. So it's really important to stay on top of what the requirements are for your specific program. So please make sure you check the OUAC application guide. The other thing you could do is look at the websites themselves. I know this is what most of you have probably been doing already. And then tours. So obviously this year you won't actually be able to visit the campus. They won't be offering in-person tours. But I have on the Google, on the Guidance Google Classroom, I have posted a document that has all of the university upcoming virtual campus tours. And this is a great way to check out universities, their programs, talk to advisors, learn more about the departments, faculties, all of those things, okay? So that is there on the Guidance Classroom page. If you haven't already checked it out, please do so. And you can access virtual tours for whichever university you are interested in. You can also talk to myself and Mr. Qureshi. You can speak with your teachers. I think teachers are a great way to learn more about programs and universities. Maybe your teacher has already gone to the university that you're interested in applying to. They can probably share some insight with you as well about their experiences. Maybe a teacher has graduated from the program that you want to apply to. So it's really important to use those teachers as resources as well and talk to them regarding any programs you might be interested in. The other thing that you should be doing is in your research, writing down your program choices and codes and keeping them handy. And this will make your application process a lot smoother and it will make it a little more quick because then you don't have to go back and look up the codes. Knowing the program codes is really important because just knowing the name of the program might still not be as clear because some programs have very similar names but might be slightly different. You know, you never know. So it's really good to have those codes as well written down so you know that you're applying to the program that you are that you want to apply to. So you know, you're not making any mistakes or you're not reading the name of the program incorrectly. Anything like that. The codes are very specific. They're very specific to the program. So it makes sure that you are applying to the correct program and there are no errors there. And those codes are easily available on the university websites when you go over the program requirements. Your codes should also be listed beside the program name. All right, so let's go over some dates or sort of time frames so you know what to expect as this year unfolds with your applications. So September to November is when you should be doing your research, attending webinars, videos, chats, virtual events, and tours. And you can also request to receive information directly from Ontario universities. I would even suggest calling an academic advisor and maybe setting up a Zoom appointment or Zoom call with them. They will also be very helpful as well. I've been kind of mentioning that in our individual meetings from last year as well. That's a great way to learn more about the program and the requirements and all of that. So try to see if you can reach out to and speak with an academic advisor for first year prospective students. By the end of November 2020, you should have received your access code, so your letter with your PIN, student number, and school number. You should be receiving it in the next couple of weeks, like I said, because they have been mailed out last week. But if you do not receive a letter in the mail by the end of November, you need to get in touch with us. Okay, this is really important because you cannot start the application process if you do not receive that letter or if you do not have that letter. So by the end of November, you should have the letter. And if you don't, please let me know. I would even say in the next, like I said, in the next couple of weeks even, I would recommend letting me know if you don't receive a letter. Okay. And the deadline to submit your application to OUAC is January 15th. Some other dates to keep in mind, May 27th is the latest date you can receive a response from universities. So that's the latest. They will probably be sending out letters earlier than that, letters or rather offers of admission. But May 27th is the latest that they should be reaching out to you with a response. It could be an offer of admission. It could be a deferral, refusal. So it could be anything, but May 27th is when they should respond to your application, the latest. June 1st is the earliest that they would expect a response from you. And this date will also be this date also applies to scholarships, residence info, any other forms. But that's the earliest that they would ask you to respond to their offer of admission. Okay, this is not the deadline. This is the earliest that you can start responding to those offers. When do your marks get sent to universities? That's a question that will come up as well. So just a brief outline of what the year will look like in terms of when your marks are sent. So November, we will be sending your grade 11 and any grade 12 final marks that you may have, and current grade 12 courses and your semester 1 midterms, in addition to, of course, your projected courses for semester 2. February is when we're going to be sending your grade 12 midterm marks, and then any other semester 1 final marks. And this, Mr. Qureshi can touch base or discuss the semester night school or e-learning as well. Mr. Qureshi, do you have any information to add to this?
Right. So if you take any courses outside of ISNA in second semester, it's very important that before late April, early May, that you give us any midterm marks that you've received. For some courses, you won't receive midterm marks altogether, depending on which institution you're taking the course in. So for those, we'll just have to indicate that you're taking the course and only the final mark will be reported.
Okay, and in April is when your semester 2 midterm marks will be sent. And then the same would apply to whatever Mr. Qureshi just mentioned regarding e-learning and night school. And then July is when your final marks will be sent. So just a note here, usually this rarely happens, but if you are planning on taking a course in the summer that will apply towards your requirements, your program requirements that you're starting in September, you need to get in touch with the university. Okay, so you cannot take a prerequisite course that is required for your program this summer, really, unless you have approval from the university. I hope that made sense. Okay, so all of your prerequisite courses, everything should be done and submitted by the deadline. But if there is an exceptional circumstance where you might be considering doing something different in terms of meeting that prerequisite requirement for your program, you need to talk to the university directly, really, is what I'm trying to say. Okay. All right. Moving right along. So we're just going to get into the actual application. So you've got your PIN letter, you're all set to start your application. So you're going to go on ouac.on.ca and you're going to click the Undergrad 101 application link. And then from there, it will bring you to this page. Just make sure that you read all of these bullet points and those things apply to you. And then you're going to click the Apply Now link, which will then take you, sorry, let me just go back. So this will then take you to another page. You're going to create your account. It's going to ask you to create an account. And then once you click that, you will be asked to input your 3 numbers that you will have in your PIN letter, or the letter that you're sent in the mail. Okay, so there are a couple of things you're going to need to do before you're asked to input those numbers. But those are basically the steps. Another thing to keep in mind is that all of these steps are very nicely laid out on the OUAC website. So unfortunately, we don't have time to go through everything, every specific step, but it's very straightforward. If you go on the OUAC website, there, even here, you could probably see it says how-to videos. You can find a short video on every sort of step of the way, every step that you need to follow in your application. So how to create your account, how to submit an application, how to make changes, all of those things are there for you. So you can look at those and follow those steps. The other question that comes up is whether you can go back and change your completed application. Yes, you could do that. There will be a place for you to, you could click on a link and you can make those changes. And then you can obviously respond to a university offer of admission. You can add new choices, you can delete program choices, you can change the details, you can change address info, and then you can of course respond to university offers of admission as well. So you do have that flexibility as well. And then when you are done and you are ready to submit your OUAC application, this is really important and something to keep in mind as well. You're going to select the complete page and you're going to make sure that you have the reference number displaying on your screen. Okay, so this reference number is basically going to be your way of communicating with OUAC. So after you receive this reference letter, if you have questions, if you want to ask, if you want to seek clarification on anything regarding your application, please make sure that you use that reference number in your emails so that OUAC knows exactly which applicant you are. Okay, so this is really important. Make sure that you have this reference number. This is a confirmation that you have submitted your application and everything is good to go. The other thing to keep in mind is that once you have, so say you make your changes to your application, or say, you know, alhamdulillah, you got an offer and you're responding yes to an offer of admission or no. Any changes that you make after submitting your application, you should get a confirmation number to confirm that your change has been acknowledged and accepted. So if you do not receive a confirmation number anytime you make changes or accept an offer of admission, that means that something didn't process. So you need to go back and see what needs to be done. But the confirmation number is actually what indicates that your changes have been acknowledged and are now being processed. So the reference number and the confirmation number, those two numbers are very important. The reference number is when you've submitted your application and it's now being processed. And the confirmation number is if you've made any changes, that's just a confirmation that yes, those changes have been acknowledged and are being processed now by the OUAC. All right, admission offers. So some points about offers and how they work. All offers of admission are conditional until final July marks. Okay, so you may receive your offer of admission maybe in March, April, maybe May, but those offers are still conditional because they're still waiting for your July final marks to be received. All right, so this is not the time to just sort of relax a little too much. I mean, you can relax. It's a nice relief that you'll feel, of course, but it also means that you have to continue making sure that you're putting in 100% in all of your assignments so that your July marks are not being negatively affected because these offers are conditional based on those marks. You may only accept one offer of admission at a time, so just keep that in mind as well. You can't accept multiple offers at the same time. Often, scholarship offers are made at the time of the offer of admission, but this can vary between universities. So if you have applied for a scholarship or you are expecting to receive some kind of scholarship, you will probably be made aware of your offer or or the fact that you've been granted the scholarship at the time of the offer of admission. But again, each university is different, so just keep that in mind. Just on the note of the scholarship info, I have been posting a lot of, I think so far posted 2 reports that talk about scholarships and give you more information about how to apply for scholarships. So if you haven't checked that out, please go back on the guidance classroom page and go through those documents, because they're really great and you can learn a lot about scholarships and how to go about applying them and seek more information regarding that. So just make sure that you're checking that out as well for scholarship info. Depending on the university, the bulk of offers may be made using February marks. Offers may also be made after April midterm marks are set. So there are multiple rounds is basically what you need to remember. They're usually made in 3 rounds. Early offers would happen between, well, sometime in January, December. These are very limited and mostly based on grade 11 marks. So if your grade 11 marks are exceptionally amazing and you've got some great extracurriculars and you just really stand out already, then you might get an early offer, but it is quite rare. So just keep that in mind. The next 2 offers will happen in February and March, and then late April, early May. So just keep in mind that if your friend has received an offer and you haven't, don't panic, because there are multiple rounds and you will be getting offers at different times. Some other items to consider: an application fee is there. So you're going to be asked to pay $150, I believe, for applying to 3 programs. And then you can apply to additional programs as well. It will be $50 each for an additional choice or an additional program. Many universities and programs have mandatory supplemental forms or personal student profiles, which you must complete to outline your interests. Make sure you know the deadline. So when you apply to programs, you might be asked to complete some other forms based on the program that you're applying to. So just make sure, so some of them might ask you to share your extracurricular involvement. Some of them might ask you to complete some kind of a student profile so that they can assess your suitability for the program more. So all of these additional documents and forms, you have to make sure that you know when they're due, and they will vary depending on the university and the program. So that's just make sure that you're kind of staying on top of that as well. That will vary. So once you submit your application, just make sure that you're going through each program and the requirements that that program has in terms of supplemental forms or other kind of documents that you may need to submit. Another thing to keep in mind is that choosing 3 programs at a particular university may not result in 3 separate admission decisions. So basically, if you apply to 3 different programs at the same university, doesn't mean that they're going to make their decisions individually for each program. Okay, so it's really important that you rank your choices with the most preferable as your first choice. So the program that you really is your first choice and your first preference, please make sure that you put that at the top, and then the other programs later on in the list. Alternate offers: if you do not get into the program to which you have applied, some universities might make an alternate offer to another program. But again, this is not the norm. Do your research, but there is that possibility as well. It's just something to keep in mind. So I'm just going to quickly go over some myths, things that come up, conversations that come up during your grade 12, in grade 12 when you're kind of worrying about admissions and how it's all going to unfold. So we've heard conversations about cutoffs and what that means and what are admission averages. So published admission averages and cutoffs are basically a guide from last year's class. So again, just because you meet the cutoff average does not mean that you are guaranteed to be accepted in that program. Okay, so just keep that in mind. There are no guarantees using just the cutoff or admission averages that you will definitely get into that program. All right, so that's something to just be aware of. It's the other myth is it's all about getting in. As soon as I get in, that's it. Everything's good. I don't have to worry about anything. You know, that's the ultimate goal for sure, to get into your first choice, the program that's your first choice. Of course, that's a great, you know, that's something that we're fixated on. But you need to also keep in mind that you should be prepared for that program and what will come after you get accepted to that program. So are you ready? Are you prepared? Have you done all your research? Do you know what to expect? Have you done all the, you know, the research regarding course workload and how you're going to manage the workload? All of those things you need to really know ahead of the acceptance, because that's just the first step, right? Being accepted. There's so many things that you have to be ready for and anticipate after your acceptance. So really think carefully about obviously which program you're choosing, and that you've done your research. You've maybe spoken to students who have graduated from that program or are currently in that program to see how things are, so that you know what to expect moving forwards. Another topic that comes up is your top 6 marks or your grade 12, your 6 grade 12 UUM courses, and that you can pick your top 6 marks that the universities will look at. You do not get to choose your top 6. Through full disclosure, all course marks are sent in February, and the university admissions office determines which courses will be used to calculate your average. So usually it will be your ENG4U plus next best 5, including your prerequisites for the program. Okay, so that's how usually universities look at your top 6, or not your top 6 rather, but your 6 courses. So you don't necessarily get to choose which 6 the university will look at, or that any top marks will be, you know, considered in my average. There are other things that universities look at. It's not just your top 6 marks. Grade 11 marks don't count is another question or conversation that happens during the application process. Oh, Mr. Qureshi, you had something to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to say in terms of that first myth, some university programs are very, very competitive. For example, a lot of the engineering programs at the University of Toronto downtown, and they don't even consider your top 6 credits. They consider your top 5 specific credits, which goes against the norm, but that is how competitive some of the programs have become now. So yeah, that's all I wanted to add.
Okay, thank you for that. That's really important. Thank you, Mr. Qureshi, for mentioning that. Um, right, so grade 11 marks don't count is something that, you know, it is a myth. It is something that comes up in conversations when you're applying. So universities will see your grade 11 final marks, and they will, or not will, but they might use these grade 11 marks as a predictor of success in case there is a grade 12 mark that's missing in the application process, okay? And grade 11 marks, like I mentioned earlier, can be used for early offers that go out in December and January. So grade 11 marks do count in some cases. We don't dismiss those grade 11 marks completely, because they come into play for certain situations for sure. Another myth is that early offers are very important, and you know, that's all, you know, once you have an early offer, that's amazing. That's like the ideal situation. They're not important. What's important is that you get an offer, right? When you get the offer is not really that important. So just keep that in mind. If you get an offer later than your peer, doesn't really mean much. Just your round, or the, you know, your letter or your acceptance was made in a different round. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Many programs and universities, like we mentioned, or I mentioned earlier, they might not even make early offers. So it's very limited. So just keep that in mind as well. Okay, and Mr. Qureshi will cover these points. So Mr. Qureshi, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. So I'll go over this point by point. First of all, for repeated courses, universities do get to see courses that you repeated. Most of the time, they consider your higher mark. However, if you do have a repeated credit, there is a small possibility that it will not be considered as valuable as a credit that's only taken once. The same can be said for courses taken outside of your day school. So summer courses, night school, are not valued as highly as courses taken during your regular day school. Residence applications, in case you're wondering, a residence application is an application for living on campus. So if you're going to a university far away where you can't travel there every day, so you have to live there. Different universities have different application processes and policies on that. A lot of universities will require a deposit before you start going to the university. Before you fully pay your fees, they will actually require a small deposit before they require the full fee payment. So that's something to also look out for. And again, this will vary from university to university. These deposits are not something you can pay on the OUAC website or anything. It'll have to be done through your particular university that you're interested in going to. And then apart from the initial deposit, then there's also the overall tuition fee that you have to pay. And again, this varies from university to university. Some require the payment early in the semester. Some will give you some time to pay it later on, sometimes even all the way up to December if you have good reasons to not be able to pay up right at the beginning of the semester. But a lot of the times, if you haven't taken care of your tuition for university, they simply will not register you in your classes until that's taken care of or at least addressed. Now, this next point is very important. English proficiency requirements. If you have not been in an English-speaking country and going to a school in an English-speaking nation for at least 4 years, you will have to prove your proficiency in the English language for some universities. And what that means is that you're going to have to write a test. And there's different tests out there. One of the more popular one is the TESL, Test of English as a Second Language. Another one is the TOEFL, there's the MELAB, and there's several others where you have to get a certain grade on these tests and submit it to your university to show that you can actually speak English and you have the ability to communicate with your professors and actually succeed in their programs. So you need to look into, so for example, if you just moved to Canada from a country where English is not the common language, then you might have to write some of these tests. Now, in order to write these tests, we can help you, give you information and help you apply, but you know, we don't really have, ISNA is not really a test center for any of these tests. So you're gonna have to write them elsewhere. If any of you was involved in the British education system, I know a lot of countries in the Middle East and Southeast Asia have students taking courses with you know, the British education system. The grades that you got for English in those courses might also be sufficient for some universities. But again, some universities actually have their own English proficiency requirement tests. I remember when I came to Canada, one of the universities I applied to was Ryerson University, and I had to not only write a separate proficiency test for the University of Toronto, I had to write Ryerson's own a proficiency test as well. And obviously the University of Toronto didn't accept that one. Deferrals, what that means is that you got an offer of acceptance, but you don't want to go to university in September. You want to take a semester off or a year off for whatever reason. Again, you're going to have to contact your university to see if that's even an option that's available to you. And again, different universities will have different procedures and different accommodations that they can make for you. Before I proceed further, I see there's a question in Q&A. Someone is saying, McMaster's admission requirements 6 midterms or 3 finals at the 4U level for engineering based on the program website. How will that work with the new process? I'm not sure how that will be an issue with this new process. They will get 6 midterms definitely by the time, inshallah, second semester comes around. By submitting the midterm marks for grade 12 term 1, well, we're not simply submitting the grade 12 marks for term 1. We're going to be submitting the grade semester 1 final marks, and we're going to be submitting this grade 12 first term mark or the midterm mark, as well as the second semester final mark. And finally, if you have any sort of disabilities or require extra accommodations, different universities will be, prepared differently to handle those. And you're going to have to contact your, not necessarily your admissions officer, but the office of the registrar to see what sorts of accommodations your university offers in case you have an IEP, which is an individual education program or something of that nature. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say with that. And Ms. Mozani, if you can carry on, that'd be good.
Okay, Jazakallah, Mr. Qureshi. All right, so I think we're coming to the end of the presentation and the things that we wanted to cover. If you need further help or if you have questions, you can always get in touch with myself and Mr. Qureshi later on as well, of course. Again, university websites, calling the university and speaking with someone is always great. This will be the best way to learn more information about your programs. Refer to OUAC websites, video tutorials, like I said. If you have questions or you run into any issues with your application steps on the actual OUAC site, refer to those video tutorials. They're quite helpful. Also, please reach out to us as well. You can contact the OUAC directly by calling them, and then, of course, tour the universities and faculties on your list. So for this year, of course, it will be virtual tours. And again, the list is there on the guidance classroom page, and you can refer to it to book a time for a tour or to reserve a time for a tour. Just lastly, before we end, college applications are something that some of you also consider, which is great. College programs have their own advantages and benefits. So, we can't dismiss those. And I would encourage everyone to apply if you feel like that might be something that would help you for your career. It's a great, colleges have some great internship programs. They have a lot of sort of hands-on experience that you receive to jumpstart your career in whichever field you wish to go into. So for college applications, though, the key thing to keep in mind is that you need to let us know before you start applying to colleges that that's what you're planning on doing. You need to let us know, get in touch with myself or Mr. Qureshi and say, I want to apply to college. What do I do? And we'll help you out. Most of the information for colleges is added by you. So that's exactly why you need to tell us what you're planning on doing so that we can help you input your information and get your application set up. We send them your transcripts after you complete and pay for your application. And some of the times colleges don't really notify us about your applications. Mr. Qureshi, did you want to add anything to this college application process? Because I know you have some more things to add, I think.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize, as you were saying, with the colleges, the application process is not as streamlined as universities, especially for a small school board like ours. So usually the way this works is you go to the website, you enter all your information there, and you can ask us to send the OCAS website your transcript, and we usually email that to them, and that's how your marks are uploaded onto the onto your college application. So if you're applying to colleges, you kind of have to take charge of the application yourself more so than you would if you were applying to universities, because with universities your marks are automatically updated every time we send them a file, but we don't have a similar process for colleges. So you just have to be a lot more on top of it, and just know that marks aren't automatically updated. You have to request that we send your marks to the Ontario College's website separately.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Qureshi. And that is it in terms of our presentation and the information that we wanted to share with you. This is a great time for additional questions. I know everyone's been asking questions on the Q&A, but if there are additional questions, we can address those now before we end our session for today.
And I also wanted to just emphasize, guys, when you go to the OUAC website, just understand that there's this website is used not just for applications to undergrad programs, it's also used for teachers' colleges, law schools, students who are not applying directly from high school. Even medical schools in Ontario use this website for the application. The application that you're going to be looking for, again, is the 101 application. And in the chat, I posted a link to frequently asked questions about the 101 application. So just make sure that you keep that in mind. You're applying through the 101 application. The other thing that I wanted to emphasize, guys, is if you are taking courses outside of ISNA, just understand that sometimes, depending on where you take them, for example, if you're taking them with the ILC, these courses are asynchronous, so there's no real start time or no real finish time for them. So what happened last semester to a few students is that they were not able to complete their courses on time because they left everything to the last minute. And that caused a lot of problems in terms of their applications. It was July and they still didn't have their marks because they handed in their work so late that their teachers weren't able to mark the work on time. Another issue that happens when you take courses outside of ISNA is sometimes the report cards are not sent directly to us. So you have to kind of contact the university the institution that you're taking the courses at and ask them to give you or us your report card separately. And that really is your responsibility. And lastly, guys, if you have to make sure personally that you have to make sure that you complete 30 credits. It's very difficult for us to look at every single student and ensure that they have 30 credits complete by the end of June, because we kind of assume that this is something that students will be responsible enough to look out for. So just make sure where your credits are, make sure you complete them, because if you don't, then if you don't graduate, then you're not going to be able to go to university, even if you get an offer of admission. And yeah, so that's all I wanted to say. I see some questions are coming up in the chat. So I can take them up, and Ms. Mohseni, if you want to jump in at any point, please feel free to do so. So the first question is Muhammad Ahmed Afridi is asking, the OUAC deadline is January 15th. However, will university programs that require supplementary applications have their own deadline? Yes, there's a separate deadlines for supplementary applications indeed. And very often that does vary from university to university, but usually it's before second semester midterm. Someone else, Yazan, is asking, so are grade 12 marks already on your OUAC account? Some of them might be. I'm still uploading the marks from the summer, but by the time your OUAC marks for midterm for semester 1 are sent out, the summer marks should already be in there. Yasmin is asking, if I already sent my report card from summer school, is my mark updated? Not necessarily, because again, once you send your report card from summer school or we receive it, we actually have to put it on Maplewood. And that is currently going on. But by the time your midterm marks are sent, it should be on there. Someone, Abdullah Gilani, is asking, is there a limit to how many universities you can apply to? Technically, yes, but for $150, you only get to apply to 3 programs. Not 3 universities, but 3 programs. And after that, for every additional program, there's an additional fee that you have to pay. And I think it's around $40 or $50. It should be, the exact number should be on the OUAC website. Someone is asking, how can I access my OUAC account? So this question was answered earlier by Ms. Mohseni. You're going to get a letter in the mail, which has some login information that you can use to log in for the first time. And when you do set up your OUAC account based on that letter, please try not to use your ISNA school email, because eventually at the end of grade 12, you will lose access to it. So use a formal email, not a funny sounding email that you would use to apply to a job or something more formal like that. When someone is Manahil is asking, will we be touching on finance management in university, especially how to avoid interest when taking loans? So I know historically we've had separate sessions for that. This session is focused mostly on OUAC, and inshallah we'll look into doing a separate session on finances and OSAP, etc. And Ms. Mohseni, again, if I'm talking too much, feel free to stop me. I'm just taking the questions one by one. I was just asking, so we can't select courses at the moment since we don't have our OUAC info yet? Yes, at the moment, you don't have an OUAC account, so you can't select university programs that you want to apply to yet. But you will get that soon, and usually September, October are not typically the times when students start doing this. Usually decisions are made mid-December to early January. And in the Q&A, there's a question that's saying, if I volunteer this year, do I have to get a paper to get signed? If so,
sorry, Mr. Qureshi, I'm currently answering that question.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay, no worries. Thank you.
And something else came up in the chat. What if we already got our forms? Well, then you can start applying. But again, this is not not a decision you should take lightly, and you shouldn't, oh, I have my account, so I'm just going to apply right now. Unless you've been thinking deeply about this for the past 4 years or more, you should, have discussions with your parents, do a Sahara or whatever dua you want to make, and, do some research, especially, and then decide which programs you're going to apply to. Because, first of all, you're paying $150 for it. And secondly, you don't want to just get into university for the sake of getting into it. Because it can become a big financial burden later on in your life. Any other questions, comments, or concerns, guys, that you might have?
Okay, it looks like we're not seeing any other questions pop up. So we're going to end the session now. Obviously, if something does come up and you think of a question or a concern, you can reach out to us at any time and we'll help you out. But right now, you should be looking out for your PIN letters. Just make sure that you get those in the mail. If you don't in the next week or 2 weeks, just reach out and we'll help you out with that. One question here. What time will course selections be out? Is it first come, first serve? So I'm going to send out those course selections in soon, today. They will come out today. It is first come, first serve, but I don't think there should be any issues with you being able to enroll in your preferred course. Inshallah, shouldn't be too big of an issue for you. But yeah, course selections, I'll be sending those out today, inshallah. Will I need to send my summer school report card? Yes, please forward it to Mr. Qureshi and he will update your credits.
And just to answer Muhammad Ahmad Afridi's question about courses taken outside of ISNA, very often it will be the case that you will not get midterms for certain institutions outside of ISNA. And the best we can do in those cases, it happens a lot, is indicate that you're currently taking the course. And eventually when we get the final mark, report that. But very often when you take courses outside of ISNA, you don't get midterm marks at all.
And I know Mr. Qureshi's already emphasized it, but I'm going to emphasize it again. Just make sure that if you are taking a course, you let us know that you are enrolled in a course. There have been times last year where a student was enrolled in a course outside of ISNA, and we had no idea that they did. And I was sort of going over their record, and obviously I was a little panicking because I'm like, you need this. This was an English course too, which is obviously a big deal. And he was taking it, he just didn't inform us that he was enrolled in the course. So just to avoid any of that, because that can end up harming your application prospects. So just make sure that you please let us know if you are enrolled in a course outside of ISNA. That just make sure that we know, right? Just touch base with Mr. Qureshi and be like, I just want to make sure that you're aware that I'm in this course right now and I'm going to finish it at this point. So some more questions coming in.
Yes, someone, Aisha is asking, so what's wrong with not getting those midterm marks? There's nothing wrong with it. It's just if you do have if you do have midterm marks available, they help admissions officers be better informed about your position. So, and if you don't have them, that might be a slight disadvantage in that sense. Someone is asking, Zain is asking, what if I'm taking kinesiology outside of ISNA with an online school and I have a year to finish it? Well, that year better end by June, because if not, then there are going to be difficulties, with your admissions. Art is asking, so you have to pay $150 for 3 programs of the same university, or any 3 programs? Any 3 programs. And Zain is asking, what do I do in that case? I'm projecting to finish in that next semester, most likely. As long as it's done before June, you should be fine. And if you have a midterm report card from them, or if you have any indication of your registration, you can that you're registered in the course, you should forward that to us, and we will indicate that you're currently enrolled in the course on the OUAC website.
So we have a question about midterm marks. When will we receive them? So you will receive your midterm. If you're talking about report cards, I believe they're scheduled to be distributed on the 26th, Mr. Qureshi, is that correct? November 26th for midterms?
Yeah.
And then we will be uploading your marks on OUAC at that time. The other question is, what day should I drop a course if I don't want the course to be on my midterm?
I think the deadline for having a course removed is 1 week after midterms,
Right.
which I believe is either the 25th or the 26th. So if you drop a course after that, then it will be shown as WDR, which means withdrawn on your transcript.
Why is a grade 9 course on my OUAC account? That's a specific individual question, so we'll have to look into that for you. But yeah, we'll look into that for you. Just whoever this is, because it is under anonymous, can you please send me an email, and then we'll go from there.
Someone is asking, does taking courses online outside of ISNA devalue the marks of the course? Again, if you take courses outside of regular day school, sometimes it is known that admissions officers don't value them as much as courses taken in a regular day school. But other times it might not make too much of a difference. So I have to send my summer school report card, or the school already sent it to you. So guys, if you have received a summer school report card, please send it to me. For some places, they don't send it automatically to us, and others do. But once all the summer school marks are uploaded, I will be posting an announcement on the guidance classroom. And if you find that your course is still missing, then you can contact me and send me the report card separately. Someone is asking if you should check my blueprint. Yes, that's one way to go, and you can also always check the parent portals, which are updated much more frequently than my blueprint.
All right, any more questions? So Alice is asking for McMaster's Health Science. The last date for applying is January 15th. Is that the only time you're able to apply? So January 15th is the application deadline for all universities, Aus. So if that's what you're asking, then yes, January 15th is the deadline. So that's when they should have received your application. You're welcome. Okay, any more questions? Just going to give it 10 seconds. And if we don't receive any more questions, we will wrap this up and end the session, inshallah. Oh, Ahsan is asking, do we get our OUAC numbers? I wasn't here for the beginning. So Ahsan, yeah, we covered that. You should be getting it in your mail. So your PIN letter, if that's what you're referring to, I'm assuming that's what you mean. You will be getting it in the mail. It should be delivered to your home address. However, if you don't receive anything from them in your mail, give it a couple of weeks. And if you don't receive anything, just let me know and I will help you out with that. So by the end of November, guys, all of you should be receiving your pins in the mail. But I would even say, because they have been mailed out last week, from what I was told. So because they've been mailed out last week, I'm assuming they should be mailed or delivered to you in the next couple of weeks. So if you don't receive anything in the next couple of weeks, just reach out to me, please. Is the recording of the session going to be posted? Yes. So once we wrap things up, we will post this by tomorrow at the latest, inshallah, okay? So just tomorrow, just look back and you should be able to see this recording. I think it will be posted on, we'll put it on the guidance page because I think it's more appropriate in the Google Guidance Classroom. So check there to see the recording. All right, any other questions? You're welcome, Ahsan. Any other questions? Okay, so we're going to wrap it up then. We're going to end the session here. Like I said, if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to myself and Mr. Qureshi. Of course, we're here. If anything pops up that you might have not thought about today, just send us an email and we'll go from there. The other thing I want to say is if you have questions about programs or career choices or all of those things, career planning, please reach out to me and we can set up a meeting. That's why I'm here. So if you want to just, share some things that you're thinking about, or if you're confused or anything like that, it's always a good idea to speak to either myself or Mr. Qureshi, of course. I have been talking to a lot of you last year. I spoke with you about these things as well. So don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have any concerns about career planning or what you'd like to do, or if you're confused, because not everybody knows what they want to do next year at this point. And it's okay if you don't. It's fine, right? But just be in the process of figuring it out. Okay, and inshallah shouldn't be too big of a deal to figure that out, but just be on it, do your research. Okay, guys, so Jazakallah khair for attending. Like I said, this will be posted on the Guidance Google Classroom page, so you can refer to it later if you have questions. And I believe we're going to end it here. Jazakallah khair, Mr. Qureshi, for helping us out as well. And we'll see you guys later. Salam.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you.